Hello everyone, I am Sam and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about a topic that's very close to my heart and very relevant to my life, and that is the struggle of being an autistic and ADHD business owner. So as someone who is both autistic and has ADHD, I know firsthand how challenging it can be to navigate this world of self-employment. And there are many obstacles to overcome, from managing your time and tasks effectively to communicating with clients, or simply avoiding meltdowns and shutdowns so you can actually get work done. So in this video, I want to share some of the struggles I faced along my journey and also how I've learned to overcome them. I also want to share some strategies that have helped me manage everything much better and ultimately grow my business. I do have a mailing list where you can get even more tips and tricks and stuff related to being neurodivergent and running a business. So check the description box below to sign up for that if that sounds good for you. It's completely free. So let me tell you a little bit about my failure at entering traditional employment. I graduated in 2008 alongside PTSD from a head injury I'd had a few months earlier. And I don't know if you remember 2008, the economy was kind of collapsing and nobody was hiring fresh graduates with no experience. So I did what seemed like a good idea at the time. A lot of people did as well. And that was starting a part-time master's in a subject that made far more sense contextually than it would to anyone now. So I'm not going to talk about that. But during this time, I was also suffering from a lot of chronic illness symptoms, which over the next few years was found to be celiac disease and PCOS, polycystic ovaries. So after I graduated from my master's, I was looking for work and I'd been getting by with temping in sort of admin and babysitting, that sort of thing. But I got barely any interviews from the many, many applications I sent out. I mean, anyone who is job hunting now will know the pain of it all. And eventually I found some longer term temp work, which was fine. It was not challenging, but I kind of lasted about 10 months before I realized they were sort of stringing me along with the whole, oh, there'll be a full-time job for you sometime, you know, that old chestnut. So my husband actually encouraged me to quit and pursue my creative dream of being a blogger/writer. This was 2012, blogging was a thing. Blogging was like the YouTube is now, but it was a terrible idea in hindsight. It was not a great idea because we couldn't really afford at the time for me to just quit and not make money. And I also just never made any money. So things were stressful financially. And I think that was the year that everyone got like homemade hats for Christmas. But in 2013, we moved to the Netherlands and it was kind of a weird situation where my husband's company kind of like relocated us temporarily. So I didn't really need to get work and I wasn't qualified. I didn't know Dutch and it wasn't really clear what I could even do with my mishmash of qualifications and random experience doing exciting but unrelated things. And looking back, nothing made very coherent sense on my CV. It makes total sense to me now, understanding like, oh yeah, that's the ADHD and I have loads of different passions and all these things. But I can imagine to an employer, they probably would be like, what the fuck? And I think the main point was that I really didn't know what I even wanted to do at this point in my late 20s. So it wasn't until a few years later, I felt the call of YouTube, but I got pregnant and then had a baby and then kind of like burnt out. So it was only in 2019 that I started YouTube thinking like, wouldn't it be good if I could like earn a little money and have some sort of a career at this, you know, wizened old age of whatever it was, 33 or something like that. And I really felt like my time was running out to do something with my life, even though that's totally not the case. And any younger people, I would definitely encourage you, like, your life does not end at 30. I feel like things are just beginning for me. So it's never too late. Those are my words of encouragement. But my lack of direction in my 20s had kind of put me at a disadvantage. So I really felt like I was behind. And the thing about YouTube was it was something that I could do from home on my own schedule. So it seemed like a good idea. And this one actually was a good idea. But fast forward for 4.5 years, obviously my YouTube channel has grown. And with growth, you start to get to a point mostly where you aren't just making videos and then putting them online. You are sometimes managing a team, dealing with sponsorships and brand deals, developing additional income streams, and all of a sudden, you have a business, like you're self-employed. So for me, it's been a slow transition over 4 years, and I learned a lot during this time, which has also coincided with learning more about myself. That has been absolutely crucial. You know, my autism diagnosis and then my ADHD, I don't want to say diagnosis because I'm not officially diagnosed, ADHD discovery. Yeah, like it wasn't obvious for everyone watching already. And also, very, very crucially, receiving support from an autism coach, which is standard in the country where I live, which is the Netherlands, and should be standard everywhere, because the support that I've got from both of the coaches that I've had in this time has been absolutely crucial to me managing myself and getting things done. So my story is not uncommon. Many autistic people, even highly educated ones, struggle finding employment, and the stats on autistic people in the workplace are really grim. So it makes sense that self-employment might seem like an attractive option. And I absolutely believe that it can be right for some people as long as you are prepared to deal with the struggles you will face, because you will face struggles. So let's talk about these specific struggles that someone with autism or ADHD or both might face as a business owner. Managing time and tasks effectively, communicating with clients and colleagues, avoiding meltdowns or shutdowns that can interfere with your work, dealing with sensory overload in the workplace or just day to day, struggling with executive functioning, which can make it difficult to do all of the above, but planning, organizing, and following through on tasks. It makes it very difficult when you struggle with executive functioning. Flirting with burnout, which I will come back to a little bit later on, but also low self-esteem has an impact, and difficulties valuing yourself high enough to make money to keep going. I see a lot of autistic people who are very talented at what they do, but their self-esteem is low and they just think, I couldn't possibly charge like what they're actually worth, because they don't feel good enough to charge that much. So what are some of the things you need to have in place in order to make this all work? The thing about autism and neurodivergence in general is that we are all different, and the specific strategies will look different from person to person, but at the core, what we need are overall very similar things. For starters, you need a time management technique that works for you, a system that works with you and not against you. And that is the absolute crucial thing. If you can't make the system work, you need a different system. You need to do a bit of experimentation as to like what is actually working for you without blaming yourself for the system not working. That requires quite a lot of understanding about your own needs. And that is something that I do go into with the coaching that I do. Some person might thrive with timers for everything, you know, notifications on your phone. Other people might need to use strategies such as time blocking or chunking. Chunking, that's it's a meaty word, isn't it? And other people might need to more realistically assess how long their tasks are likely to take. Like, raise your hands, that's definitely me. I'm like, oh yeah, I can edit a video in a day, and like, 6 hours later, it doesn't happen. But if you struggle with this, take a look at what you currently do and ask yourself, why isn't this working for me? Instead of blaming yourself for failing to stick to strategies that are often developed by neurotypical people. Pause. Communication strategies. Now, I want to clarify here, autistic people don't have a monopoly on poor communication. I cannot emphasize that enough, despite how we are often described. But we are more often than not misunderstood or misinterpreted. So if you work with other people, you need to have a concrete strategy for clear communication with clients or customers. And that's going to be really helpful rather than going on assumptions about the way that things work. So for example, it's very helpful for me to have everything down in writing and emails. And if I'm not sure about, like, if somebody's being vague, I'll send them an email back and I'll just be like, can I just clarify that? Boom, boom, boom. So that it's, first of all, there's a paper trail or like an email trail that's written down. And second of all, we go in with the same expectations. And I know that I'm like probably a hyper communicator. A lot of people might think, like, how can you have problems communicating, Sam, when you're talking on YouTube? It's very fluent. First of all, I've written this whole script out. Actually, not this bit, but like, I've just got a teleprompter. This is awesome. Like, it's fake. It's all fake. Like you think, oh, well, I actually do communicate very clearly, but communication is a two-way street, right? So even though I'm communicating very clearly, other people's expectations will still get in the way, and they will not hear what I'm saying. They will hear what they expect me to say. And so understanding that, developing some of your own strategies will be very helpful for you in the long run. Other ways that you can help with communication, if you have like a web shop or something, or you don't like making phone calls, you can set up one of those chat boxes on your website. Now you can set it up with AI. You don't even have to be a real person. Instead of like receiving calls, you can have just a chat box on your website, and that might be a better way of communication. Or other ways, just tweaking your communication methods to better work for you and being assertive about those. So have something in your email footer. For example, at the bottom of my email, I say, I work part-time hours, so adjust your expectations accordingly. I'm like, yeah, I work part-time hours. I'm not checking my emails every day. Well, I am. I'm not replying to emails every day, right? But I'm like, look, it says it here. Like, I'm working part-time hours. I'm looking after kids the rest of the time. So like, adjust your expectations. This isn't on me to be like, don't demand things, immediate communication, immediate action from me. So maybe that's something for the sort of like demand avoidant among you to have like a sassy email footer or something, but don't make it too rude. I don't know, is that a rude one? Let me know in the comments if you think that could be perceived as rude. But basically, everything in your business should be set up to work with you and not against you. And that is like a fundamental principle that has got me. It's like, how can I make everything work with me the easiest, so I'm not struggling? So I'm working with my strengths and not trying to like battle my weaknesses, because with neurodivergent traits, when you have a particular weakness, like no amount of effort is actually going to change that. So you can put in a load of effort and get exactly the same results. So why not make it work easier, make everything easier for you. That's like the take home, make it easy. One of the next strategies that I've been using is to prioritize heavily self-care and rest. And this is so important and so all-encompassing for your life, but it applies like 100 times more if you're self-employed. You may have heard of the term autistic inertia, where it's difficult getting started with something, an object, or autistic inertia, Newton's something law. Didn't write this in the script, you can see. But the thing about inertia, autistic inertia, much like physics inertia, it's also difficulty stopping once something has begun, right? And so, yeah, an object in motion remains in motion until a force. I did physics, I know stuff. But what that means for you is that you get into something and you're like, finally, I've got motivation, I'm working on it. And like 6 hours later, using that as a work strategy, that is going to lead to you overworking, and that's going to lead to burnout. And it doesn't matter if it's going to be next month or in 5 years, you will get burnt out working on that unhealthy cycle. I think it's really one of the reasons that I believe we are so prone to burnout, because we simply can't stop and rest. So understanding your fundamental needs is so important, and it's something that many of us have learned to disregard as we're growing up. So I think it's also really important to reconnect to yourself and think, hey, do I actually just need more sleep on a daily basis, or need more fun? So I definitely recommend, the prioritization, the aggressive prioritization of self-care and rest. Another thing that I think can be very helpful is looking into the ways that technology can support you. For example, I've started using ChatGPT to draft emails, especially ones where I get an email and I'm like, I don't know what to say or how to reply. And, if I do that on my own, it will take me probably a couple of days, and then I probably forget about it. And then I'll be like, oh no, it's been 7 days and I still haven't replied. But, I put something into ChatGPT, like write a response to this email, and like I'll copy paste if there's no sensitive information on there. And then I'll say, include this in the reply, use the tone friendly but professional. You can say what tone you want it to be as well. And it will spit out a draft that I can just check and then edit further. I never send anything out that's just like, oh, ChatGPT wrote it, done. But it's a tool to be like, okay, let's get this initial structure, and then I can just tweak it. And that's not just something that saves time, but it saves the mental battle in my head to complete the slightly annoying task that I'm stuck on. But there are also, loads of other ways that technology can help you, whether it's by making use of planning apps or noise cancelling headphones or automating your systems, depending on the type of work you do, of course. Having a system, if a customer makes a purchase, the email gets sent out automatically, they get added to a list automatically, and then they get access to the course automatically or something like that. You can do amazing things with automation, and it will save you so much grunt work, but also crucially, it'll save you on the admin stuff where a lot of us typically struggle with. Another strategy that I truly believe is crucial when you are self-employed is getting support from other people. And just because you work alone or mostly alone doesn't mean that you should expect to get there on your own. And sometimes it can be hard to get help. Sometimes it can be hard to accept help. And like I said, I've had a coach. An autism or an ADHD coach can provide valuable support in a variety of ways. Some people don't really know how a coach could help them. Generally speaking, a coach will try to work with what you need rather than telling you what to do. That's not really their role, is be like, oh, you need to do this and this and this, but like work with you to try and figure out like what's the best way to do this or support you in other ways. There are also a lot of country-specific schemes to support autistic people. In the Netherlands, we have like autism coaches who come to your house and help you with whatever you need help with. But there's also schemes such as Access to Work in the UK. If you have an autism diagnosis, I highly recommend looking into Access to Work because you can find people to help you with things, sort of like a virtual assistant, personal assistant, various different things. So if you do have a diagnosis, do apply to Access to Work because you can get stuff. And you can also get funding for things like training and other things. So highly recommend that. And I would also recommend finding community with online groups or maybe offline groups. If you're lucky, if you live in a city, there may be some neurodivergent specific, business groups. But trying to be self-employed in a vacuum is almost impossible for neurotypical people as well. And leaning into the support that's there, leaning into the community, that's really, really important. And there may not be much, but it's important to do it as much as you can. Even if you think, I don't like people, I hate being in a group or whatever, try it. So I think it would be really amazing if you live in a country where you know that there is support available with an autism diagnosis, with an ADHD diagnosis, or any other kind of neurodivergent condition. Please leave a comment below being like, I live in this country, this is the support I get, like this is what you need to do, because then we can actually like connect people with the services that are already out there. And you'd be surprised. I don't know. I think even in the USA where they don't support anyone, I think there may be a few different programs that might be there to help you. So it would be really awesome if you know that there is support available in your country. Please do comment because then we can like share the knowledge and stuff, right? So I totally understand, especially when you're working for yourself, it can really feel a bit disheartening having to put in so much effort just to manage yourself, right? But I really believe that with the right support and systems in place, many of us autistic people, ADHDers, we can really thrive in self-employment and lean into what are our strengths, our passions, and our values. So I hope you found this video helpful, informative, whatever. Remember, you are not alone in these struggles, and there is usually a way to manage whatever problem you've got. So don't forget to join that mailing list for more tips, tricks, and insights into being self-employed and neurodivergent. When you click on the link, you need to check a box saying, yes, I want to join the secret business mailing list, and you'll be added automatically. So take care, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye. How can you have problems communicating when you talk on YouTube for... Oh no, now I've messed up the teleprompter. What's I saying? Shit. This is what happens when I don't script my videos. I go off piste, and then there's a problem. But yeah, whether it's by making use of planning naps, yeah, planning naps, that's what I said before. Planning apps, whether it's by making use of planning apps, what?